What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to another edition of MLB Crunch Time. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich, ready to break down this small 5-game MLB slate we got. I am joined by the Chief himself, Will Priester. How you doing?
I am good, man. It has been a good day. Spent a lot of time with the fiance today. You know, the wedding is coming up in November. And so we were out and about perusing the streets when they got us some breakfast this morning and did a little shopping today and made a little money out while we were shopping on some of the pick'em sites. Golf was very kind to me today. And I actually, so TJ, so this hardly ever happens to me, but I must share this story. I had some golf set up. Me and a couple of my friends had some golf cards going, and I fat fingered an under by accident. And that's the reason I had such a great day, because I had a fat finger. We were all on the over. And so I posted, I was like, guys, check this out. I'm like, it looks like we're live. And they say, wait a minute, Chief, that's supposed to be an over. And I said, oh no. I said, I'm going to lose this card because of an over. You know, they put it together and we all kind of tag teamed it. I said, I'm going to lose this because of an over. And I just knew. I said, well, there goes my day. And then lo and behold, I get a ping maybe right before the last hole. And it said, well, it looks like you're going to luck into a 30x return on that fat finger. And I'm like, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. That was how it went for me today. Great. And so this it ended up being a really good day because of my mistake. And this is, once again, sometimes, you know, that's why I tell people, put good out, get good in. And obviously I lucked into that one, but I will take it, kind sir. And with that, I'll head it back over to you.
You definitely got to take it. It is so important to remember those good beats, for lack of a better word, not beats, but like bad wins, because you're remembering all the bad beats, right? And so it's so important to remember those bad wins as well, because it does kind of keep that mental psyche up. It reminds you it does go both ways. I've never had like a really big one off of a mistake like that, but I did have one time where I was like, this is long before I worked at RG. This was my first ever big win. I'd had some like 4-figure wins before, but I've been doing my Mlb Dfs research all day long. And then something came up. I was still pretty new at this, right? I wasn't expecting a ton of news. I was going out that night, I think. And I think this was pre-late swap too. And so I remember being at Walmart in the line to leave Walmart, and there was some big notification that somebody was out. And so I'm like scrambling in the Walmart checkout on my phone, adjusting lineups, and like the one that I adjusted at like 1 minute before lock ended up being a 50K winner and my first like big win ever. It was pretty exciting. So it's important to remember those moments, because when you get on a down streak or something, you can remember that it turns around quick. The bad luck comes, but the good luck comes as well. Talking about these different pick'em sites, before we get into this slate specifically, talk to me about your pick'em show, because anytime we're on a show together, I kind of feel like it's stupid me doing a read about your show. It's your show. You might as well just tell the people about it.
Yeah, so it's Take Your Pick'em. It's every weekday at 10:30 a.m. It's me just talking through some pick'em plays. And we had a pretty good run last month, and I can kind of take you through the basic. Our record last month, 42 plays correct, 34 plays and 2 pushes. And on the month right now, we're 2-2-1, but I've got an update from the Friday stuff. I think we're 4-4-1 or maybe, but I'll have that ready to go on Monday's show. But, you know, we keep up with it so everybody knows where we are. And it's, once again, a ton of fun. Definitely want to get on them because they're earlier in the morning. And so a lot of these plays will move throughout the day. So if I'm able to get it at a certain point by 3 o'clock, it may not be there. So that's one incentive to join the show. The other thing, just come hang out. It's like I said, it's a ton of fun. And this is something that I am very passionate about. And I've been passionate about these pick'em sites for years now, at least 2 to 3 years, and I've really, poured myself into it. And, so hopefully everybody feels the energy and feels my excitement, and you guys can get on board as well. So let's take your pick 'em every Monday at 10:30. And I go over the picks before, all the sites do too many bumps. And that's a ton of fun.
And let's start talking about this 5-game slate we got. We not wasted, but had some good, important DFS talk at the beginning of the show. And we're still going to have lots of time for this slate because it is only a 5-gamer. We're going to focus some on Fanduel, where, of course, you can sign up for the Fanduel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state and take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply. But we're also going to be migrating over to DraftKings as well because they do have much bigger contests for this late slate. FanDuel had a lot more going on earlier, but for this late slate, DraftKings does have a lot more money up top at some of these contests. So we will migrate over there as well. But what's your kind of overview? Let's start with pitching because we got Spencer Strider up top, but he is expensive on both of these sites. Yeah. On DraftKings, he's at 12.4. On FanDuel, he's 11.1. He's easier to get to, but still a hefty price over some of these other guys.
Yeah, so I think the deal on Strider for me is, do you think he's got the upside to punish you on this slate? It's a small slate. If for some reason this is the 60-point Strider, you're dead if you don't have him, I think. If he doesn't go for 60, then you're probably okay if he ends up in the mid-40s. So I think that's kind of where you want to think about it, right? Do we think he has this massive 60-point game, or do we think he ends up in the 40s? And so we do have projection systems, right, that will give us what the projections think, like the BAT and like the RG projections. Me personally, I do like to actually look at the matchups. And look, Spencer Strider, in my opinion, is probably fairly matchup proof, like because of his K rate. Like his K rate's 41%, so he's going to get strikeouts. But there are teams that will limit strikeouts, and Arizona is one of those teams. The problem is they haven't seen much of it. So I think if you're going for ultimate upside, I think you play him. I just think risking not playing him at all it's just too risky to not play Spencer Strider on this slate when he's the highest upside pitcher. I don't think you go all in, though. And so that's where I am. I think you get a reasonable amount. We've got him projected around, I don't see the projection on him.
We got him at around a 30% projected ownership today. And
I would probably go over the field. Yeah, on FanDuel. I would probably go over the field on him on FanDuel because I don't really like all of these pitchers, but I do think there's some guys in good spots that can have equal upside or close enough for a cheaper price if things go their way. But in terms of Strider being at the top, I don't think you can fade him. He's got more upside than anybody on this slate from a strikeout perspective.
Drop my phone. It's very site dependent for me. Sorry about that, people. It's very site dependent for me. On FanDuel, where he's 11.1 and 30%, I'd probably at bare minimum double that. I think that's a very reasonable price tag. Arizona's lineup doesn't have Christian Walker, one of their more powerful bats today, and it does have like Evan Longoria and Rivera in there who usually aren't against righties. So Strider on FanDuel at 11.11, that's definitely my top play. On Draft, and like the Yu Darvishes, the Logan Allens, the Drew Smileys, they're not that cheap on FanDuel. And so I don't really feel the need to go all the way down there, especially when Strider's not picking up all that much ownership. But on DraftKings, he's 12.4. That is expensive, especially on a site where the bats are the pricing on the bats are a lot tighter. And he's also projecting for almost 50% ownership over there. So I think Strider makes for a very good fade on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, I wouldn't want to chance it. He'd still be the top pitcher on the board for me. And on a tournament, from a tournament perspective, if you're expanding your pool, who else are you going to on FanDuel? And then if you have DraftKings up, talk about some SP2s. If not, I can cover that after.
Yeah, so DraftKings in terms of SP2, Logan Allen is probably going to be my top guy, especially for playing Strider, because I'm going to need some of that salary relief. And so with Allen being in that mid 7K range, I think he's one of the better plays for me today. Facing Minnesota that is striking out a ton. It is warm there, don't get me wrong, but there's strikeouts in this lineup. I don't think he gets out of this game clean, but I do think he's able to pick up 5, 6, 7 strikeouts if everything goes his way. And at that price, he's in my opinion, he's one of my favorites from a tournament perspective.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on FanDuel, where he's up to 8-7. If I'm running a lot of lineups, I would definitely still want to get some exposure to him. He'd be the lowest I'd be going. Darvish at 9.3. That's probably somebody I'd be looking to get under the field on at 30%, but I do still think he's a reasonable play. I do think personally, in my opinion, like if we're looking at some of these offenses today, if your bats are kind of chalky, I really like the idea of and you're planning on playing Darvish, I really like the idea of pivoting to Allen in tournaments. I don't want to play Garrett Cole against the Dodgers, Sonny Gray going up against the low strikeout team like Cleveland. It's fine, but I don't want to do it. Baltimore's good. I don't really want to play Cobb at that price tag. So FanDuel, it would really be all about going overweight on Strider for me and then making some pivots. In the Darvish lineups where I'm trying to spend up for bats, make some pivots to Logan Allen instead there. And then I'm with you from a DraftKings perspective. Like Allen is my favorite pitcher over there at 7.3. That's just way too cheap for him. He's only projecting like 25% ownership. He's my favorite pitcher by far over there. We got that 46% projection on Spencer Strider. I'd want to go underweight on that. Garrett Cole, 20%. I'd want to go underweight on that. Darvish at 41. His price tag is fantastic. And I think like 40% is probably reasonable for him. So I don't really want to say fade Darvish like I'm planning on fading the expensive guys, because 8.6 is just very cheap for him. But Cobb at 7.5, Allen at 7.3, and Smiley at 7.1. I really like those price tags, and I don't hate the idea of double spending down at pitcher today. And Logan Allen is my favorite by far. Let's pivot to these bats, though. We got only 5 teams on the slate. We are still waiting for an Atlanta lineup. They're the only teams lineup that we're waiting on, and they're the chalk of the slate. They're the best offense. They're the only team with a projection over 5. Now, it's not much over 5. We got the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres, other teams up over 4.5. But Atlanta's the only one up over 5. They're the top offense on the slate, and we don't have their lineup yet. Do you think that'll decrease some of their ownership, and are they your top team for tournaments?
I don't see how it decreases, in my opinion, considering like on this slate, they've probably got the highest upside pitcher and the offense in the best spot. I don't think it's going to change. If anything, I think people build less at the top of this because I don't think a lot of people want to play. Hear me out. I don't think they want to play the Dodgers against Garrett Cole, right? And maybe they'll take some bats from Minnesota, but I think all in all, it's 2 games at 7, 3 games at 10. I think people will sacrifice certain spots to make sure they can get Braves in. I think their ownership's going to be there regardless. Even for novice players that haven't been in the industry a long time, I still think they understand, okay, the Braves have the spot today. I think they'll ensure that they can get these bats in.
I think that makes sense. Are you going to be prioritizing getting those bats in today? Say if you were running a single entry and if you were running 150 lineups, how much would you be prioritizing them in tournaments today? And then who would be some of your pivots off of them?
Okay, so if I was running 150, I would absolutely be prioritizing the Braves, but I would be prioritizing weird stacks. So instead of me going completely all in at the top of this order, I'd have a lot of Ozuna, Rosario, Albies, Harris, Acuna, right? Like a nice mid to bottom of the order wraparound. And then I'd probably leave off Acuna. which is going to sound crazy. I get it, right? But you're talking about a small slate where we need to have some leverage. Then I'd have something like Olsen, Ozuna Rosario, Albies Harris, right? Something like that. And then I work it down. Like, and that doesn't mean I have to hand build, but I would consider hand building a couple of those to get kind of what I want. But that's how I would be prioritizing the Braves, just getting a lot more of the bottom of the order than I usually would. So where usually I might say I'd have Acuna as an example at 25% and Rosario at 15%, I might actually flip that. I might bump up my bottom exposure to Rosario in that 25 to 30 range and play less Acuna than the field. But look, they're the top stack on the day, but I'm just trying to get different enough to win.
That's the thing, right? Is on both of these sites right now, we have Michael Harris, Eddie Rosario being the two highest owned Atlanta players. Matt Olson is on DraftKings, where he's a little less expensive than he is on FanDuel relatively, but then it's still Harris and Rosario number 2. So that's actually kind of one of the reasons why, especially on DraftKings, I really like the idea of the double pay down at pitcher. So I can play Olsen together, play Acuna, who's actually going to be the second lowest owned outfield that we're projecting, and play Sean Murphy, play Austin Riley, who nobody's playing today. We're projecting him for less than 10% over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, we're projecting him for 10% on the dot. And so I kind of like the idea for tournaments paying for these expensive Atlanta players and then paying down a little bit at the pitching position. And then,
well, I mean, if you're playing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, TJ, but if that's the case, and I'm really enjoying this conversation, if you're going to something like Allen Darvish, you can build it out all the way up. Like, you don't even have. You could literally build a 1 through 4, and somebody's going to do that. So I don't want anybody to think that's sneaky. Trust me, that's going to be in tournaments where we get Allen Darvish. Then they just play Acuna, Olsen, Riley, Murphy, and then those top 4, the expensive guys, and then they'll play one of the cheap guys, whether it's Ozuna, Rosario, something like that. So it's going to be done, but it's less likely to be done than most. So I love that call.
And then I think my 2 other favorite places to go for offense on this slate is the Yankees would probably number 2 going up against Grove. The one thing I'd be worried about, though, is like in his rehab starts down in AAA when he was starting, he looked really, really good. Bunch of Ks, no walks, limiting hard contact. And so that's something I'm not sure about, but I'm going to be honest. I like the idea of stacking up the Dodgers up against Garrett Cole on this small slate. Bet on the Dodgers' talent because they're really good. Yes, Cole is really good too, but he also gives up a ton of hard contact. Even if you're not full stacking the Dodgers, they're probably my favorite mini stack on this slate. If you go to Plate IQ and you sort them by just this season only, they all got over 100 plate attempts outside of Rojas, so who you're not playing anyways. Most of them are closer to 200. Betts has got a 266 ISO, 194 for Freeman, 194 for Smith, 339 for Muncy, 387 for Martinez, 260 for Hayward, 255 for Eltman. I just kind of want to bet on the Dodgers' talent here and go up against Cole. I don't hate that idea whatsoever. Let's start going position by position. We can rifle through this pretty quick because it's such a small slate. At the catcher position today, up top, you do have guys like Rutschman, Smith, and Murphy. My favorite is probably Murphy up top. I think if you need a punt, my favorite would be Jeffers. But the spot I'm most likely to go is this mid-range of either Gary Sanchez batting 5th against the lefty or a nice low-owned Blake Sable batting 5th for San Fran. That's coming in at sub 5% ownership on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I don't think you need to play a catcher unless it's in your stack and their name is Rutschman, Sanchez, or Smith, or Murphy.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think I agree at catcher.
All right.
It's a straightforward slate, I think.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I think it is as well. We got almost 150 people watching. If we can get up to 60 likes, I got a Spidey bomb for the people today. So make sure you hit that like button. If we get up to 60, I got a Spidey bomb for you. And in terms of questions, I'll be looking at the RotoGrinders Discord, MLB Crunch Time channel first. And then, of course, we'll be looking to YouTube second. So make sure you hit that like button. We'll get some Spidey bombs for you. And we will rifle through the positions here as well. Taking it over to first base, Matt Olson is the top play here, I think, by a fairly wide margin. The ownership reflects that. One of the reasons I like getting a little bit different at pitcher is because I do really want to play Matt Olson today. Guy's just been absolutely smashing right-handed pitching all year long, and he gets a great matchup today as well. In tournaments, I think my favorite option is probably going to be somebody like Freddie Freeman. Rizzo's fine, but Freeman is probably going to be my favorite pivot off of Olsen. And then if I need to get cheap, the guy that I want to be doing it with is Lamont Wade Jr., or maybe even taking somebody like a Josh Naylor shot in tournaments. How about you?
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I was definitely going to mention Wade, because I know I didn't mention this in the stacks portion because we were kind of discussing Atlanta. I do like San Fran today, for what it's worth, against Bradish. I think they've got a shot. So one of the things about San Fran, and I will hurry because I know we got 8 minutes, they strike out a ton, but they got a lot of power. And when the power is there and they start hitting, they start scoring runs. Like, we've seen this team strike out 20 times. I'm exaggerating, and also score 20 runs. Like, they've got the pieces to do it. So just want to plug that in. I do like San Francisco as well. And then I think I don't hate Christian Walker today. And the reason why, on a small slate, I'm more likely to go with, and I don't think Arizona.
Christian Walker's out of the lineup. So that's one of the reasons why we can like Strider a little better.
Pavin Smith. But he's at first base on FanDuel. I do like the idea of an Arizona stack today. They're a low strikeout team. And so, look, Strider could mow this team down. But I'm saying on a slate like this one, where what if they touch him up a little bit, where let's say he goes 5 innings and they've scored like 2 or 3 runs, but then they get a little bit of Atlanta bullpen, they could pile up some runs late. So I did want to put that out there. I'm not usually like going straight vomit stack, but I do think Arizona's sneaky if they can get Strider early. All right, done.
Yeah, that's the way I feel about the Dodgers today. The Dodgers are kind of that one that I want to be going against the elite pitcher, but Arizona is going to be even much sneakier. They'll be virtually unknown on a 5-game slate. On the slate that's small, I think you can play any of these offenses. At second today, I think Mookie Betts is very interesting for tournaments up top. Ozzie Albies will probably be the mid-range play most people are going to. And then if you need a punt, it's Adam Frazier. No, Adam Frazier doesn't hit for a lot of power, but he's got contact and he's batting first today. Given the small slate, it's a relatively strong position. Guys like Torres, Jimenez, Polanco, even Cronenworth, they're all fine. And obviously somebody like a Marte in a sneaky Arizona stack like you were talking about. But my favorite, I think Albies is probably somebody I'd leave off of my Atlanta stacks personally. I'd play him in cash. But Ozzie Albies is somebody I'd leave off my Atlanta stacks and go and probably either pay up in Mookie or pay down with Adam Frazier.
Yeah, Torres is my tournament player today at second base.
Gleyber Torres, I like it. He's been hitting the ball well. At third base today, Jose Ramirez has just been cheaper than he should be most of the season. And so I think he makes for a very great play on both sides. And then Manny Machado and Josh Donaldson both hitting cleanup, both nice and cheap. Gunnar Henderson hitting 5th. He's fantastic as well. All of these guys are fantastic, and those would be the ones I'd be prioritizing. JD Davis is fine for tournaments. I think from a cash perspective, for me, it would be Donaldson on DraftKings and Machado on FanDuel. And then for tournaments, my favorite on both sites is Austin Riley.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that call. I mean, we're probably going to be on the same page because it's straightforward. Like, Donaldson's 2,900 on DK in a fairly okay spot. Like, especially if you need salary relief and you wanted to kind of pay up at pitching at both spots, you could kind of get him in. So I like everything you said.
All right, taking it over to short today. Not as strong of a position that we sometimes see it as. Xander Bogaerts is probably the best play up top, batting leadoff up against Smiley. But it is totally a position that you can just save salary with as well. My favorite plays in lineups that I'm not playing Logan Allen would be these Minnesota guys, either Farmer or probably Royce Lewis would be my favorite. But I don't hate the idea of punting with somebody like Casey Schmidt in my lineups that do have Logan Allen, or when I can afford it, go up to somebody like Smiley. How about you?
Yeah, I like Perdomo at the bottom of this Arizona order. 3,800, a guy that doesn't strike out a ton and can typically make good contact. Once again, I don't think Strider's going 7 innings today for what it's worth. I think 6 is his max. But I'm also expecting Atlanta to be in control of this game. So I expect Arizona to have to bat in the ninth. And so hopefully we can get Perdomo with, one extra at bat, which could help our chances here. But so at 3,800, I do like him. I don't hate Volpe at the bottom of the order. Those are a couple extra guys. Schmidt, I know he was hot. I talked about San Francisco. I don't hate him against Bradish as well.
For what it's worth, we still don't have an Atlanta lineup, and it's 4 minutes until lock. So while it's only a 5-game slate and there's 3 games at that time slot, so their ownership may not go down, but it's definitely not going to go up with us not having their lineup 4 minutes to lock. So it's either going to be at where we're at projecting it, or it's going to be even lower, which is why I think at the outfield where we see Aaron Judge chalk, it makes me like somebody like Ronald Acuna Jr. so much because he's a pay-up that's going lower owned than Judge, and it's the cheap Atlanta outfielders that are getting a lot of ownership today. Don't get me wrong. I think Rosario, Ozuna, Michael Harris, all of them are fantastic plays today, but I do think there's some interesting pivots off of those guys like the San Fran outfielders, Yastrzemski, Haniger, those guys in there. And there's people talking in chat about Devin's leading the charge on Baltimore and Chicago today. I don't mind either of those teams in tournaments. Somebody was asking about Atlanta. Asking about San Diego. I think they're interesting for tournaments as well. For me personally, I think where I'm going to be looking to go in the outfield is Atlanta players, Rosario, Ozuna, and Judge with some Michael Harris. And Acuna with some Michael Harris as well. It's the Dodgers. It's Betts and maybe some JD Martinez and Outman. And then it's, if I need to save salary, it's San Fran, Yastrzemski, Haniger, and some of these other cheap guys here as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Once again, I do, in terms of the outfield, Atlanta, I like them. I don't hate the Diamondbacks. I don't hate the Padres outfield. Don't hate the Giants. The Giants outfield actually might secretly be my favorite. The Giants are kind of like my sneaky number 1 team today against Bradish, for what it's worth. Yaz, Sable, Haniger, these guys get going. It could be an ugly day. So
I'm with you. I think with the Dodgers are my favorite sneaky expensive stack, and for cheap, it's going to be San Fran today. Atlanta still is the favorite overall. You can have time to get this one in really quick. The Spidey bum is Max Muncy going up against Garrett Cole. You can find him for plus 450 on Caesars, plus 360 on Fanduel. Obviously, the Caesars ones are a little juicier, but I really like both of those odds. You got 1 minute to get it in. I really like going up against Garrett Cole today and the Dodgers. And so that's going to be my biggest interest in tournaments is Dodgers and San Fran. And then the less sneaky of teams that I do still like are New York and San Diego. But my favorite is still going to be Atlanta. We are 1 minute away from lock. I've been trying to kind of go through the QQs as we're talking about them. Favorite starting pitchers for cash on DraftKings. It's Logan Allen for both of us. For me, I think my other favorite is Darvish. Was I correct in saying your other favorite was Strider, or do you like the Darvish pairing as well?
I like Darvish and Strider. I'm siding with Strider because of the massive upside. He seemed to have gotten it done against everybody. He's pretty much 6 strikeouts or more every game. So that's why I'm still going to side with Strider. But absolutely, Darvish is in play against the Cubs. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. We don't have anything in the Discord for questions. Looks like we covered it on the YouTube side as well. We did just hit lock. Still don't have an Atlanta lineup. So if you're planning on stacking Atlanta today or even just playing a few one-offs, make sure you keep your eyes peeled to Twitter to make sure that you get, and the RotoGrinders lineup page and or lineup HQ to make sure that the players in your lineups are in their team's lineup as well and are actually going to get some playing time today. That'll do it for another edition of MLB Crunch Time. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Thanks to our sponsor, Fanduel. On behalf of the best producer in the game, Devin, behind the scenes, Chief, and myself. Have a great Saturday night, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow morning, as I believe Chief and I are both back with Britt as well to talk some MLB on Sunday morning. So we'll see you then. Peace.